Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of Parenting Autism.
Hello.
Hey, honey. How are you?
Perfect.
Good. That's a great answer. Hey, I thought today we would do a podcast. It's kind of be a shorter one than we normally do, but we would do something about the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder.
Yes.
You had said something to me earlier this week when, I don't know, we were having a conversation about something, and I had a little bit of an emotional week. It's a roller coaster ride, and sometimes I feel up and sometimes I feel down. And there was a day that I felt a little emotionally sad. And it really stuck out with me that you talked about being autism advocates.
Ambassadors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's really the word I was looking for. I feel like we're advocates also for Bryce, but ambassadors is the word that you said that was really sticking in my mind. And I've repeated it back to you a few times, and obviously I couldn't remember it at this moment. But we're supposed to be ambassadors for autism, not just for Bryce, but for this entire community of beautiful people that we've met that walk on the same similar path. But I know that there are a lot of our friends and people that we meet that don't really understand what autism is. So
right, and they listen to the show.
And they will listen to the show, and they've asked us questions like, how did you know, and what did you look for? And, you know, and I have had people that say, or I've heard them say, that their child lost their diagnosis, or their child grew out of whatever they may have once had diagnosed as autism. And, it can get very complicated and confusing. And you and I were even talking earlier today when we were talking about the idea of doing this as a podcast. It's not so simple as other diagnoses where you can take a blood test and then the results come back and there's a concrete evidence that you have whatever that may be.
Right.
That's not how you get diagnosed with autism. It's really based on observations of behaviors.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people struggle to even get an accurate diagnosis, because if it's not consistent, there may be days that your child or even, whoever is showing some symptoms, and then other days may not be as much. But we're going to talk about Bryce's case because I can't talk about everybody else. I just know that it's awareness that we're trying to create and help people understand why we know that Bryce has autism.
So on that note, we're going to start with what do we call them?
Well, there's 5 symptoms.
Symptoms. There we go.
I'd come across this one article and it was listing out the 5 symptoms, and I'm like, yes. We'll go with number 1, and number 1 is social deficits. So why do you think that Bryce exhibits social deficits that would put him with the diagnosis of autism?
Okay, so social deficits we've seen in Bryce have been what they call parallel play or independent play, where he will play by himself or alongside of other children but not interact with them. So still kind of playing by himself, but maybe doing a similar activity as the other kids, but not paying any attention to them, even if they talk to him. So that would be one social thing.
Yeah, and I think he's improving in that area. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it was when he was originally diagnosed.
It was that bad.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was a severe case of being socially.
Another one would
deficit.
be the eye contact. Yeah. So that has to do with social. And so early on, he couldn't even look at us. So we knew there was an issue there when your own child can't look you in the eye for whatever reason, or look at anybody when they're talking to them. That's a clue that something might be wrong. Yeah.
And in our situation, it wasn't always that way. So Bryce started, we've learned the term is regression, but he started stop he stopped looking into our eyes more and withdrawing more, and not just us, but everyone. But I have noticed, is there improvement there? Yeah, I'd say there's improvement, but there's still a long way to go on that.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for him to look you in the eye. I do believe that it's not, and that's something like people need to understand. If they're trying to have a conversation with him, he's not ignoring you.
Right.
But he may be
That can be
looking
the
off to the
perception.
side
Yeah.
because he's concentrating on what you're saying. And if he's looking at you, I don't think he can fully concentrate what you're saying. So he's going to look kind of beyond you, but he's still listening to you.
And we were talking earlier today that I felt that Bryce, I don't want to say has a one-track mind, but he's not able to multitask like most of us can. Like, listen to a conversation and involve themselves in a conversation while doing something else.
But like the example you gave this morning while you guys were getting ready for church.
Well, yeah, I was asking him if he would like to go to the Space Center tomorrow, and he didn't answer me. And it was like a few seconds later that I realized that he was heavily involved to listening to a Mickey Mouse episode, and he was kind of playing along in his mind about the episode. So whatever I said to him just didn't even register, like I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I think one thing with the social deficit that may be a miscue for understanding Bryce, that he does have autism, even though he is very friendly. And because there's a big perception that people who have autism don't, I guess, I don't want to say that they're not friendly, but they don't interact at all, where Bryce will definitely try to he'll give hugs. He doesn't mind touching.
And we have to generalize these things because the saying is, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. So everybody's not going to be like Bryce and have our experience.
No,
either.
and that's why it's called a spectrum, because it can be from very mild to very severe. I would say Bryce falls somewhere in the middle. He's not severe. Even though he was diagnosed as mild when this all first happened, I don't think that he's mild.
No.
Because we just don't have enough. No, he's just not mild. He's in the middle.
Yeah.
He's just there in the middle, and he's making his pace, and he's moving along, and we see little things every day.
And we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, and we're doing the best we can. But it's definitely, he's got social deficits, and so that is still a box that is checked that, yes, Bryce qualifies for autism for that. The next symptom is communication difficulties. Again, checking that box, but
yeah, he is. He's about 2 years behind in language, so putting him next to a neurotypical 5-year-old, you would notice a big difference. So he can't always tell us what's going on in his head. He's just not there. I mean, we've seen improvements since we put him on the gluten-free, casein-free diet, where he's saying more sentences and new words,
new things that we haven't heard him say before.
So we're happy about that. But he's still way behind. But we're very thankful for that blessing that we're seeing, and we're encouraged by that.
And once again, big spectrum from mild to severe. Severe being they're not able to use their voice at all to communicate. Mild being that they can have a conversation, but it's just difficult for them to initiate conversations or sustain a conversation unless it's on a topic that they love. In Bryce's case, he will use language, but a lot of it is repetitive, like he's repeating what you're saying, or he's repeating something that he's heard someone else say, or a video, or I mean, he does that a lot. That is a lot of what his
and we know that when he
are.
Answers us with the same question, or he starts repeating a video that he's seen, that means he probably didn't understand the question that we asked him, or doesn't know how to answer it in his own words. So he picks either repeating the question back to us.
You can kind of tell, or if he starts if you ask him something and he just doesn't want to have a conversation with you,
he'll just repeat something.
Then he'll
else.
just go off on his own little thing that he wants to say, and it's
the
like,
little piggy
I
went
don't
into
care.
space.
There it is. I don't care what you're talking about. I'm going to talk about my piggy. So yeah, that's it. Whatever his favorite thing is, right then. So again, Bryce is there in the middle. We get to hear his cute little sweet voice a lot, all day long. But it is sometimes in conversations and words that we have no clue what he's talking about, or if we're familiar with the video where he's picked it up from, we'll have an idea. But he can tell us his basic needs. We're extremely grateful for that. And he has no problem, for the most part, telling us what he needs. If he needs help, he's able to communicate more to us if he has an injury, or if he's scared, he's starting to ask why questions. He definitely asks where people are. So lots of good things.
Are routines on your list?
Routines is next. That's the repetitive behaviors.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that's either repetitive behavior or a strict routine, I would say. But his repetitive behaviors are the flapping. That can be repetitive behavior. What else does he have that's repetitive?
Well, I mean, so we're going now to the next symptom, which is repetitive behaviors. And I think, yes, his flapping can be repetitive, but I think his obsession with the doors, having to open and close a door a lot. Yeah. He has to watch it close. If an elevator opens, he needs to watch it close.
And I would classify that as repetitive and unusual.
Yes.
So yeah, he does do that. And
he doesn't do the lining up of toys.
No,
he's never done
some kids
really
do that, but he hasn't done that.
He has not done that, but definitely he can get stuck on things, and that would fall into the routine. We were sharing with a friend yesterday, and we said, he's not rigid from the time we get up to the time we go to bed, and that's a blessing, and we are grateful for that. But if he has a area of the day that he is most rigid,
it is
it would be morning,
and sometimes at night, because he has to read his book.
Yes,
which
that's
we want.
true. That's
we
true.
Want
that's
him to
true.
read
We
his
have
book.
put that into place.
And he always has to go run and get a drink of water.
He has built in his own, he's kind of created his own routine at night. So
but I'd say the morning is more, you got to be in line with what's going on.
It can't go out of sequence.
Right.
I mean, the reality is he's not going to go take a shower or brush his teeth unless he's had his grapefruit yet.
Right. And he's not going to take a shower without brushing his teeth. So it's all
he
in
has
the
a
line.
sequence.
Yeah.
He knows how it needs to go. The particular video is still a requirement to get through the morning.
After he gets out of the shower, he wants you to dress him.
That's right.
So
you're done, and it's on to me, and it's like
Mommy's
tag
turn.
team. Yeah, it's like we're running a relay, and you pass the baton. There we go.
Yeah.
And because he's ready for a snuggle. So we definitely have a routine, but you know what? It gets us through the morning without any grief. So
it does. So
I'm grateful
we've
for
let
it.
A couple of those
and
slide. It's not a bad routine.
It's not. We used to have worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be every single little. There must have been at least, and I'm not exaggerating, 40 to 50 steps in the morning routine that had to go exactly the way he wanted.
And that was before more of his language came.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are grateful that it's a smooth routine. It's an easy routine, and it keeps everyone happy and moving in the morning and then the night. But that definitely falls under repetitive behaviors. Again, check that box for Bryce because it's there and he needs that. But thankfully, he's not so rigid that if something goes off course, that is going to totally throw him. So we're grateful for that. And then we try to keep him introduced to different things and doing different things for that reason, because if he gets too structured and too routine, then it'll be hard to introduce new things to him. Mm-hmm. But if he doesn't have any structure or any routine, then it's not good for anyone. Because I think every child, typical or autistic children, they would crave some type of routine, and it's good for everybody. I think humans, adults,
mm-hmm.
if we don't have routine, it can just kind of lead to crazy disaster. So anyway, so the next one would be sensory difficulties.
Okay.
And I would say with Bryce, you go ahead, babe. What do you
Well,
think?
we've been pretty fortunate in
Yes.
that department. I think when he first started taking showers, he had a sensory thing of the water hitting him, but he quickly got past that from when we migrated from a bath to a shower. But I want to migrate him back to a bath because we know that Epsom salts are good for him to it helps remove toxins from the body. So we want to try to work him into that routine.
Well, you worked him into that yesterday he's all about seaplanes and submarines right now. So I was like, well, let's put his seaplane in the tub.
And if
that
we go
worked.
back to routine, then he got out of the bath and then he wanted to take a shower with me.
So there you go. So he has to
still
have
had
the
to have
shower.
the shower. So we're working through that now. But other sensory things were we live close to the beach, so we would go to the beach, and the sand on his feet was a big no-no. I felt like we got past that. And I think now when he gets sand on him, on his legs or feet, I've seen him itch. So I think it's itchy to him, and he wants it off of him. So we don't...
And then he scratches it off?
Yeah, it's like almost like irritating, you know. It's,
it bugs me too, so I get it.
right.
Yeah.
So we wash it off, and so we don't go to the beach much for that reason. He did love the ocean at one point, but
I think right now the feeling of the sand outweighs the joy of the water.
Yeah.
Just right now, but that could change again.
Exactly.
And we're not pushing it.
Other sensory things would include loud noises like clapping,
I think that's the
unexpected
primary one, don't you?
buzzers or dings or bells, people singing spontaneously. Those types of things catch him off guard, and I would say that's one of the big things that we're dealing with right now.
I would say hearing, to me, hearing is probably the primary sensory issue.
He went through a small stage earlier this year with the sunlight, where going outside, he said it was too bright and he had to have sunglasses on, but that only lasted about a month and a half, and that kind of went by the wayside. But
and I feel like the noise, the loud noises, is hard to predict even for us. So, you and I were talking yesterday, let's just keep the headphones in the truck instead of in the house. So if we go someplace and then we realize, maybe we should have those for him, to give him the option. So like last night, it was a big milestone, but they had a movie at church for an appreciation for us, the dream team that serves at the church. So we went. There were still a lot of people there. I would say easily over 100 or so. And so Bryce was a little hesitant because he was like, he even said, there's a lot of people. And I'm like, there is, but you'll be okay. He did not want to walk through the doors because he associates like stadium seating with clapping. He anticipates that people will clap if he enters a room that has stadium style seating or any kind of seats. And for the first time, he even said to us, it's too loud at All Villages, which is where he went to school and had his programs. But he never said before how much that really bothered him. He just learned to cover his ears and he tolerated it.
Now he's able
But
to tell us.
now he's afraid that this is going to take place at other places and he's not up there performing. So the church was awesome. Our pastor last night was just like, well, why don't you take him up like in through a back entrance and
to
then
the second level,
so we could go up to the second level and sit in the back, and that really worked well, and it relieved his anxiety. I could tell
he still didn't want to sit.
He didn't want to sit near everybody. He wanted to go to a section that was empty, but we put him in the corner so we could be still part of the group.
And he did well. He asked to leave a few times, but you kept telling him it'll be 10 more minutes, and then
I did, and then he actually it was Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
So it was enough that it kept his attention enough. I mean, there were certain scenes that he was totally engaged, like when the fire and the incinerator and then they got rescued, and he thought, that was like really cool.
He
and
loves
then
garbage trucks.
when the garbage truck was coming, and so there were certain things that would catch his interest. But I was happy that we made it through the whole thing, and we did take the earphones. And he didn't want them the whole time. And that's what I also thought was great. When he didn't feel he needed them, he took them off.
Right.
And then he was really nervous the whole time. He kept saying people were going to clap. So I said, no, they're not going to clap till the end, and we'll leave before they clap. So we got up when we knew it was over, before the credits rolled, and we did get him out before they started clapping. So
I think we left the theater as they were
like we
clapping.
were away,
Yeah.
so right.
And
it was
that
like
okay.
a faint clap, and he didn't even react to that, which was fantastic. So, yeah, that's the one thing that I would say he has mild, because they say mild to severe. That's probably the one box is still checked, but it's mild because it's really, thankfully, only with hearing that we deal with it the most. And, all in all, that's probably been, of the 4 symptoms, the one we've struggled with the least.
Yeah, thankfully, food sensitivities are not an issue for us.
Yes, and that is a big sensory
so
for a lot of people.
he likes crunchy foods. He likes soft foods. So
yeah, texture does not seem to deter him from eating foods.
That's a
and we're
blessing.
continuing to expand that. So we're very blessed in that department, extremely grateful. And the last symptom that they listed was unusual abilities. But Bryce really doesn't. I think that's more like the savant skills that, like on The Good Doctor, or someone that can play an instrument and they've never even taken a lesson. They just have, perfect pitch talents and that sort of thing. Bryce has an incredible memory that's going to serve him very, very well. I don't know what all is going to happen in life, but anyway, that's pretty much our boy, and that's why he is diagnosed with autism, and those are the symptoms that he currently displays, and that's why he still has that diagnosis and still has a lot of needs that we're working with him about.
Our neurologist, going back to that, when he was first diagnosed, within I would say the first 60 seconds that he saw Bryce in the room after he came in, he knew that he was on the spectrum.
He did.
Because he saw the flapping, and he noticed that Bryce wouldn't look at him when he addressed him. And those were 2 biggies, I think, that he noticed right off the bat.
He did, and I had recorded some things and showed him as well. And as soon as he saw the recordings, he was like...
And then he's like, I'm sorry. And we're like, okay, it's all
okay,
right.
it's
He's
okay.
alive. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But I think over the next months after that, we noticed more things. Like somebody asked us if he was pointing at objects, and he wouldn't. He was not pointing at airplanes or anything that interested him. He would just not point.
I have to laugh a little bit because they really worked with him in therapy for pointing. So when he first started pointing, he would point with his middle finger.
Yeah.
So he was pointing at everything with his middle finger. But I'm happy to report that now he uses his pointer and middle. You get 2 fingers, but at least he added the other one, so he's not flipping birds all the time, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any other things that he had that you can think of?
From the symptom-wise?
Yeah.
I mean, the flapping and the withdrawal and the anxiety was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, the anxiety, for sure.
And it heightened to extreme levels. So they don't have that on here as a symptom per se, but there's no doubt that this all triggers into that, and that's a big part of his autism.
And we know a lot of kids have trouble sleeping at night, so fortunately Bryce does not have that issue. I mean, he tosses and turns, but he is asleep, and
he is a good sleeper.
He gets enough sleep. He doesn't have a nap in the afternoon, and he does sleep through the night. So we're very thankful for that. But there are other symptoms out there that kids may have that are on the spectrum that we haven't gone over here. But the ones that we went over, I believe, are the most common ones that people experience.
Yeah. Again, I just did a Google search to say what are the most common symptoms. That's what I grabbed from, and I'm like, let's just say how they apply to Bryce.
Yeah, and that's how they've applied to our world.
So anyway, that's the update, kind of where we're at, and on that note, we're going to wrap it up here.
We hope this helps somebody out there in autism land.
We hope it helps other people that don't even live in autism land to understand how we know that our boy has it and why we are living in the land.
Yeah, and again, there's no blood tests they can do, not right now anyway. Some genetic testing will show some things, but really the main thing is observation and trying to have conversations or do an IQ test, that type of thing with the person. But it's mainly observation, and the things are obvious once you observe the child. Normally, they're obvious.
Yeah, let's just say if you spent one full day with Bryce, you would have no doubt.
Yeah.
You might spend an hour and wonder. One full day, you are a believer.
Yep. It's like, okay,
Hey, I'm a believer now.
What did I sign up for?
It's all good.
All right. Thanks for listening to episode 19, and we'll catch you guys next time. If you feel led, leave us a review. We love those, and we'll mention it on the next podcast.
All right, we'll see ya.
See ya.